Instead of just teaching people how to get started, it's like, what do you do when you've already started and you are at level one? Level one is where I was back in September 2020, where I made my first 30K and I was stressed as hell because I didn't know what to do.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Campfire Capitalism. I'm your host, Desmond Dixon, and today there is no Queen Heather. It's just me and another queen. We got Miss Ava in the house. This is going to be such an awesome episode because we're going to talk a lot about building brands and e-commerce and how this young, talented woman literally built multiple six figures and nearly hit seven figures by the end of 2021. I mean, this woman is a rock star, and I have a feeling that we're all going to know her name in about 5 years. So, Ava, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, man, this is going to be good. So what part of the world are you in right now? Just curious.
Well, right now I live in Panama City, Panama. You know this, but everyone listening doesn't know. I'm originally from the Netherlands. So I moved here a year ago. So I've been living in Panama City for a year now.
Heck yeah, this is sick. So let's kind of get to understand your story because I know you're young. You've seen a lot of success at an early age. Just talk to us a little bit about your journey, and then we'll kind of just dive into your zone of genius.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm from the Netherlands. So that's where I was born. I moved to Belgium with my parents, obviously, when I was really young, I think 12 or so. And that's where I grew up and met all my friends and went to school. I had a very normal upbringing. Like my parents, they just work. And I just went to school. I've always been quite good at school, like never too bad, but I don't have a business background. That's where I'm trying to go to. So my parents have never been entrepreneurs, neither have I before like all this. And I didn't know any entrepreneurs. So the first person I met who was into business was my boyfriend. We met when I graduated high school. So we've been together for 5 years now. We're still both young, we're the same age, but he was the first person that I knew that was a little bit into like business, and he was doing sales. He was a recruiter at some point, like you. He was the first person that was kind of doing that. But besides that, no one. So all my friends, they went to university just like I did. That's me. And then fast forward to me graduating high school. I was in university for a few years already. I hated it so much. I was always the person who liked school. I was so excited about going to university and doing and like learning and like just getting to know everyone and everything. And I got there and I hated it so much. And I had a whole crisis because I felt like I had made the wrong decision. And then I started looking into different things online, and I got into self-development, and I got into business and saw other people doing stuff. And then I started following someone on YouTube, a woman called Tatiana James, and she had her own brand. So I started following her. She was the first woman who I was following who was really doing well for herself, even though she was really stable and was in a stable relationship. And she was the first person I started following, but I was following, but I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't taking steps. I was just following and looking up to her success. So I kept doing that until the pandemic happened. So pandemic 2020, I wasn't going to school anymore because everyone had to be at home. Like my parents were at home, everyone was at home, the whole world was on hold, as you guys know. And that's why I started thinking, okay, like I really have the opportunity to do something now. I'm at home, I'm not doing anything. I'm not really studying, even though I'm supposed to, but I'm not. I started looking into different things I could do. I was a student back then, so I didn't have any money, like nothing at all. Maybe had a few, like maybe 20 euros on my bank account, like back then. So I was like, okay, what do I want to do? And I was following that woman, Tatiana. She had her own brand, but she started as an Amazon seller. I knew that that's not something I wanted to do because I lived in Belgium. Amazon is not that big in Europe unless you live in Germany. So that wasn't really something I was interested in. But her husband now also has a YouTube channel and he talks a lot about affiliate marketing. So I thought I would get into affiliate marketing and then go from affiliate marketing to having my own brand eventually someday, because I knew that like I didn't have the capital to start a brand the way I thought I wanted to start a brand back then. So yeah, I started saving up, looked for another job that I could do during the pandemic, worked my ass off like the whole summer. I wasn't seeing my friend. I was working every day. I was so tired. I was waking up earlier than my parents to go to my like student job back then and coming back in the evening. Worked my ass off so I could save up some money. But in the meantime, my boyfriend had also started doing e-commerce. And he bought a dropshipping course from a guy that was mainly known in the Netherlands. So if you aren't from the Netherlands, you won't know who he is. But he had created a course in Dutch and it was for dropshipping. And then my boyfriend started, and he knew that I was into affiliate marketing, or that's what I wanted to do. And he told me like, okay, you've been working so hard and saving up this money. Why don't you just start with dropshipping, so you don't have to invest the money that you have made right now from your job into the course of affiliate marketing? Because the affiliate marketing course was expensive for me. Like back then it was, I think maybe like $2,000 or something, which is a lot of money for a student to pay by herself. So he said, just start with drop shipping. You can always transition to affiliate marketing or your brand afterwards, because you know long term that's what you want to do anyway. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? So that's how I got into drop shipping and I got into the e-commerce space in 2020. And yeah, do you want me to proceed, like go further with my story and explain more, or do you have a question?
Yeah, talk to me about the whole like drop shipping. Like, yes, you did the affiliates. Looks like you like was willing to invest in yourself with personal development, and you were curious. You were looking for different things while you're still a student. So like that shows a lot in terms of character and curiosity. So I think curiosity is literally the biggest catalyst for success. Being curious in other people, being curious and what you don't know, right? Because if you're so stuck into your own beliefs or stuck in your own circle, not expanding your mind or your network, then you're really not going to make progress in life unless you are born into a perfect situation where you don't need to do that anymore. So I'm just curious to kind of see where this curiosity led you. So talk to me a little bit about your drop shipping journey, right? So tell us, like, what did you start off drop shipping with, and what was that business journey like for you?
Yeah, so I got into drop shipping because my boyfriend already had the course. So as I said, and I started, so he gave me access to the course somewhere in July, right? I was still working back then. He said, okay, like just go through the course and follow the steps. He had already started back then. So he was a few steps ahead of me because he already went through the course and was building his store and maybe like making his, or starting to work on his first product. So I went through the course as well. It took me a while because I only had time to work on the course after work, and I was usually home at 8, 9 p.m. because I was working the whole day. So I went through the course in the evening, and then by late August, I was done with the course, had created the store, and then had launched my first product. I was really lucky. The first product I launched was a success right away, right? Usually you hear people that they have to test a lot of products to see, to get there for success. I was lucky that didn't happen to me. So the first day I launched, I still remember it. I hadn't really slept that day because I had worked until I think 5 a.m. in the morning or so to make sure that everything was ready to launch because people were coming on my website. And then I launched, and then by the time I woke up, it was 8 a.m. in the morning. Like I said, I didn't sleep because I was stressed about it. And I saw my first ads going live because if you know Facebook, you know that Facebook has to approve your ads. And that was the first time I launched it. Like by the time that it was 8, 9 a.m. in the morning, that's when the ads got live. And then I think 1 hour or so after it was live, I got my first sale. And that first place, I was into beauty. So my whole store, my whole journey has been beauty products always. And the first product I had was an eyebrow pencil-ish kind of thing. And I think I was selling it for 25 euros or something, which is maybe $30 in dollars. And I saw my first sale like 1 hour. I was so excited. I texted my boyfriend or I called him. I don't know, one or the other. Oh my God, I just got my first sale. I was so happy. It was crazy. So yeah, that happened. And then during the rest of the day, because with Shopify, you can install the app on your phone. And then every time a sale goes in, unless you don't have your notifications on, you will see the sales coming in. So really like you see those gurus do that. You see sales come. That's really how it goes. So I had created my first ads, and I was only spending 60 euros. So like, let's say $60 in the whole for the whole day. So like Facebook distributed your budget throughout the day, and then like throughout the days, I would see like more sales coming in, but like not a few, so maybe 2 or 3 by 5 p.m. And then it was Sunday, so I went to my boyfriend the day to spend the day with him. And then I was so obsessing over my phone. He said, like, put your phone down, like just like enjoy and relax. And but he was excited for me as well, right? He was really happy I had launched, and because now we could talk about it together because he was doing it as well. And then so yeah, I put my phone down, and then by I think like 8 p.m. in the evening, I decided to check again, and I think I was at 180 or 200 euros then. So by 8 p.m., so by the end of the day, like I said, I was spending only 60 euros, so that's the 3x ROAS return on my first product launch. So that happened. And then by the end of the day, I don't know at how much I ended, I think somewhere in the 20s, but that was a 3x return on the very first day I launched. And that's how everything started. So by the end, so I started late August, I think the end of August. And then by the end of September, I had made my first 30K. So I had done like 30K in revenue that month with that product. A lot of things went wrong that month. Like I made so many mistakes. I really didn't know what I was doing. But what I decided to do is, since I had made a little bit of money, I decided to invest in a coach. Because I didn't know, I had never like done any, I didn't even know that Facebook advertising existed, right? So my boyfriend said like, no, like invest that money, make sure that you learn right now. So I invested in a coach, and that coach I was paying, that mentor I was paying for, it was 250 euros for 1 hour. So basically all the money I had made was reinvested in those coaching sessions because I really wouldn't know like what to do. So that's what happened the first month. And then the second month was October. I went to it. I was super stressed. Like it was the first time I had made that much money in my life, and even seeing that much money and knew it was possible. So yeah, I went into the second month. I was so stressed. Like I was making money, but I was more stressed than I was before that because I was afraid to lose it. And I knew that I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I'm in that situation. Like I've never done this. Like how am I even keep this running? So yeah, what happened was like things did go wrong. I got blocked on Facebook. If you are in e-commerce, like you know what I'm talking about. Everyone has been blocked at least 10 times. So I got blocked on Facebook. My Facebook profile got blocked. My business manager got blocked. I wasn't able to advertise. And then by the end of October, I wasn't advertising anymore because everything was just shut down and I didn't know what to do. I went to my mentors to ask them what they were doing. They were in the same situation. How crazy is that? That you go to your mentors, you're paying $250 for 1 hour session, and they cannot give you advice on what to do. It's like, yeah, we are in the same situation. It's like, well, that's great. So I think by the end of November, I joined another course. That's Alex Fedotov. I'm still part of his community till this day, and I will probably always be in it. And he had a solution for that. So he like connected us to the right people. He knew what we had to do to make sure that we weren't shut down, because I had that issue. My boyfriend eventually got that same problem as well. So he connected us to the right people to make sure that we could keep advertising. So that was end November, beginning of I think December. And then by the middle of December, I started advertising again. So that's when I started advertising again with Alex Fedotov's help. And then by the end of January, so almost a month later, I made 130K in sales. So that's when everything exploded. Everything after that, it just kept going. And then February was good and March was good. And then we had some like downs and ups. So like from there, it was a roller coaster. That's when the real learning curve started, like that year, where I had to start hiring people for the first time. I had to train them, had to help myself accountable, had to learn that I didn't know everything, and had to put myself in a position that where I could be a leader, but people also knew like this is new to me as well, right? So if you see me doing something wrong, don't be afraid to tell me because I'm the one paying you because I'm your boss, right? So yeah, it was a roller coaster from there, but yeah, we kept doing good to okay, and then by the end of the year, like I said, nearly hit 1 million. I stopped drop shipping eventually because I was working with another brand, a guy named David Fogarty. This is a really long story, but
This is great.
I started working with David Fogarty because he was the it guy. He was like had a brand. He was doing over 100 million a year in sales, and I was only like doing like a couple with 80 to 100K a month, which is nothing compared to some guys out there. So everyone was talking about them. Like, have you heard of this David guy? Like, he has a brand. And if you like remember what I said in the beginning, I knew I wanted a brand years ago. I just didn't know how to get started. I didn't know how to get there. So when I heard about this guy, I was like, wow, like it would be great to be able to learn from this guy, right? To just like be close to him and like see how he thinks and how he runs his business and how he got to where he is now. And then, so yeah, I was just talking about that and I mentioned it to my boyfriend. My boyfriend is really knowing that Alex Fedot of community. If you think I'm impressive, like you will absolutely love him. I think he did 8 million or something last year with his brand, which really shows that he's on another level. But I don't even know how they got in contact anymore, but they got into contact and did a call. And Davey was looking for someone with the skill set of my boyfriend, right? Someone who could test product, could scale them up and do all those crazy things. He wasn't interested in that back then, but he knew I was. So he said, you know, my girlfriend, she has been talking about you. She wants to join your team and she does exactly what I do. Exactly. And she's been doing great. So if you're interested, I can connect you guys. We said, yeah, sure. Like, we'd love to meet your girlfriend. And then we got into contact. I started talking and I showed him the structure. And then because we had a lot of system in place to be able to do what I was doing, because job shipping is so volatile. It's really up and down. You really have to be bulletproof if you want to, especially when I was doing it last year and the year before that. You really have to have a bulletproof system or else you will just get knocked out in the first month, like I did in the beginning. So yeah, I met him. We talked and he said, you know, would love to have you on the team. So I started working with him, and that's kind of what got me to where I am now. I started working with him, joined his team. I wanted the mentorship more than anything, right? So the reason I joined is because I was like, I just want to be close to you. I just want to see like, how does your company look like, and what are you guys doing, and like how do you get where you are now? Because that was still so new to me, and even now I feel like it's so new to me. I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, but I still feel like I know nothing, which is why I'm so keen on learning and making sure that I get to work with brands that are so far ahead of me that they are talking about stuff that I know nothing about. So I worked with him, and then I started working with other brands, and now I'm still working with other brands doing different stuff, like helping them scale their brand from 6-figure to 7-figure or beyond, depending on where they are.
Man, that's super fascinating. There's so much to unpack. Like, I think the big thing obviously is I'm really interested on like the velocity before we like dive into, you know, how to get started and things like that. Like, I'm pretty curious, like how much did reviews, like how important, like from the like, what did you think was the most important factor to keep scaling the business from, you know, your 30,000 to the 130,000? Like, was it the reviews? Was it the social proof? Was it you're getting better at the ads, the creatives, the copywriting, or a combination of all of it? Or was it website optimization? Like, what was the big difference to like, you know, to go from your first 30,000 a month to that, you know, 6-figure month?
I would say the biggest difference or the biggest thing that I had to learn is like, just there were skills that I didn't have, right? In terms of in e-commerce, you're advertising on social media platforms. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on TikTok, you're maybe on LinkedIn, depending on your business. And you have to learn what you have to do to make it work there. So that's one thing. Like there's a certain skill, and it's really about the creatives, the videos, the images that you're using. And it sounds really easy when I'm saying it like that. It's really not. You really have to like learn, like, how do I make this work? So that's for sure one thing. And then another thing was, I would say, mindset. Like, it's really like the type of energy. I feel like even now I'm not back to where I was in terms of energy. When I was there, I was so determined to make this work. It was crazy. I wasn't sleeping. I was sleeping 2 to 3 hours sometimes, and I didn't care. I was like, no, this just, it has to work. I have to do this. I just have to. I was still enrolled in school when I was working on my business in 2020, 21, but I wasn't going anymore. I wasn't following the courses. I didn't even know like when the lessons were. And I was like, I don't want to go back. I was so determined. So I feel like that was another thing, that I was so focused on making it work that I did make it work. So it's two things. It's really the skills, figuring out what you don't know, getting in touch with people that will make you aware of what you don't know, which is what I try to do now, right? With everyone I work with, I have a skill that they need, and I try to make them aware that wherever they are in the business, that there's information out there, and they don't even know that they are supposed to be looking for it. So if I know it, I'll let you know. And that's what usually helps scale their business. Like for me, the biggest thing that I learned in terms of making it work besides the mindset was like really learn how to create stuff that will convert. How do you create an ad that will make people buy your product, even though they don't know your brand, your business at all? They've never seen it. They're seeing it right now for the first time on Facebook, and you are convincing them to buy. How do you do that? So that was the biggest skill. And then besides that, it was just mindset and just going and don't give up. And every time you fall, just get back up and like keep going.
Man, I love that, because even though you're doing e-commerce and you're the first person to talk e-commerce on the pod, I think it's a crazy, like, I love pattern recognition, right? Like, can you see the patterns of success, right? Can you see the patterns of what not to do, right? And it's two things that you mentioned. It doesn't matter what you're doing in business or in life, you need to build skills, right? And you need to have a certain mindset. Like, mindset creep is real, right? Like right now I'm traveling, and sometimes, like, I'm like, pretty recently, I'm like, man, I feel bad not working as much, because I only work like maybe 24 or 30 hours a week now between a couple of days. And sometimes I feel guilty because I'm like, man, I'm so used to working 60, 70 hours a week, like grinding, but my mindset's in a whole nother place and my skills at a whole nother level than they were 2 years ago, right? Yeah. So I'm spending more time thinking than like pounding, right? It's more time like overseeing things, right? And which requires flexibility, right? Like as your skills increase, the more intelligent you become, creates more flexibility, right? Because it sounds like now you're in that in-between zone from where first you were consuming and trying to like, what do I not know? Who do I need to meet? Who can I pay to get there faster? And now you're kind of in the middle of, hey, I'm still willing to pay to get to the next level or give my time. Also, I'm also willing to receive someone else's time or money in order to help share those skills. And because you also learn that way in terms of like a mastery of sharing. So yeah. I'm pretty curious, right? So let's dive in here. So I think this is like an important highlight, kind of, the segment into like what you're doing now. Like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I love starting new projects. I love shiny toys, right? Every entrepreneur listening to this, they probably love shiny toys as well. If I'm interested, if I've come from a totally different industry, right? Like for instance, the service-based industry, and I'm interested of starting this on the side, right? And I want to, maybe, to create another, income stream, right? What's the best way for me to get started, or people like me who wants to maybe create a second business, who have capital and resources and maybe some skills, but maybe not the specific skills for e-commerce specifically, but they have the mindset, right? Like, how can they get started?
Yeah, well, there are two scenarios. Either you have money or you don't, right? If you do, you can invest in the right people. So what you need to make e-commerce, you need someone who understands the space and someone who's a good marketer. So I would invest in the right marketing people. Make sure you have someone who knows like which type of content needs to be made so it can be advertised and it will work. Make sure you know like someone who can like basic marketing stuff that if you are not in the e-commerce space, you probably don't know, like how to create landing pages, what needs to be on there, CRO, optimizing your landing pages, playing around with it, and then making sure that it converts, stuff like that. Those are the people you would probably need if you already have the mindset. If you don't have money and you cannot invest in that, then those are skills you need to learn. So and if anything, I would say if you are like starting from scratch, still launch your like whatever, like your business, your brand, but keep in mind that you will have to learn how to market, because even if you can invest in someone, you still need to be able to lead that person. And to be able to lead a person, you need to have a basic understanding of what they're doing. So it's still a skill you have to invest in. So that's another thing. Besides that, wait, what did I say? You either have money, don't have money. Then another thing is that's what I teach the people. So I have some, like mainly girls, women that come to me right now, and then they are interested in starting their own business. And one thing that I would like to focus more on the over the years, instead of just teaching people how to get started. It's like, what do you do when you've already started and you are at level one? Level one is where I was back in September 2020, where I made my first 30K, and I was stressed as hell because I didn't know what to do. Right? So because you've made that money, but you don't know what to do with it, you don't know how to reinvest it, you're afraid that you will lose it last month because you don't even fully realize how you got where you are like then. So how do you make sure you have a bulletproof business? From there on, so once you have the marketing in place, let's say it's other things. It's working with the right people. It's having a great team. And great team it's really about, you have to build a company that will attract the best people. And you have to be the best version of yourself to do that. But you also have to make sure that you're building a company that's that as well. You have to imagine if I was to hire the best media buyer, marketer out there in the world, right? Would he want to work with me if I had the budget, right? Would he want to be part of this company if like the money was not an issue? And if you're honest to yourself, you will know that if the answer is yes or no. And if it's no, then you have to work on your business. You know that you're not there yet. So that's another thing, hiring the right people, like be truthful about that. Make sure that you're really building something that can attract that. And then also like build a bulletproof business in terms of like work with the right payment processors, work with the right banks, work with the, make sure that like every partner that you have is there to scale your business with you, which is another thing that people usually miss out on because they just don't know. That's something they have to be looking for. So that's another thing.
Man, that's so much to unpack. Dang, I think what got me in terms of like what you said with the culture thing. I was first going to ask you like specific startup costs, but before we go there, I want to recap this because I think it's really important. And I think it's amazing how you said, if I could hire the best people in the world, would they want to come work for me? Because recruiting is so important as you like scale the business, right? Having the right people in place, because if you have a bad hire, I mean, that can be the difference between regression and progression, right? It could be a 6-month like delay in your own success by hiring the wrong people, because you not only have to replace them, but you have to undo or recalibrate everything that wasn't in place, right? So this is pretty fascinating. So culture is really important. And obviously, as your brand in a certain position to attract the right talent, like, are you working on something that's interesting, right? Because smart people who can make a lot of money, they don't pick it because of money. They're picking their next opportunities based on, is this fun? Do I like the ethos? Is the person that I'm working with great? Is the environment workable? Or am I going to hate waking up every day? So I thought that was pretty interesting. So let's segue to this, or let me recap. Let me ask you a follow-up question on the first thing, because we're capitalists, right? It's all about ones. Does 1 + 1 = 2, right? And then obviously, what's my ramp up capital or what's my startup capital? Then ramp up, obviously, but the startup capital point, like in terms of risk, like talk to us a little bit. You don't have to give us like the specifics, but just kind of give us a ballpark on those two options on like, if I do it myself and need to learn the skills, how much money and also time, because time is super important because we talk about time a lot. Like in the first month, how much money in the first month do I need to invest and how much time do I need to invest to both of those options, you think, based upon your experience?
If you start by yourself, which I think, like, I don't know, most people I know have started that way. They started by themselves. So it doesn't ask a lot of capital to start. It will ask a lot of your time. So you will have days like I had where you're not sleeping or you're barely sleeping. I think I started with maybe like 2 or 3K, like in my bank account, like when I got started. And what did I use that money for? I used it, honestly, you can start with barely any money. But the thing that where you will need the money is just cash flow. Like when you're scaling up, you will need money to keep scaling, right? And because the profit you're making is not enough to scale up to where you want to be. So you just have a cash flow like problem, which is why like any type of extra money that you can get it's going there. But just to get started, you could start with probably, let's say if you have 1K right now with $500, anything from $500 to 1K, you could probably get started. If you're using the model that I'm was using, where you're drop shipping the product first, and maybe later on you will invest in stock, because stock is very cash flow intensive as well, right? So you need to have a lot of capital to be able to invest in that. So that's one way. Money would be an issue in terms of cash flow, but you would be fine. It will take a lot of your time because you're learning everything. I still kind of suggest that it's if you're really starting from scratch, I kind of still, if this is really your long-term goal, I would still go for that, because you need the skills, man. You kind of need to know like what you're getting yourself into. But if you have all the money in the world, then invest in the right people right away. Like make sure that they can that they have the money, and well, obviously the money is not an issue, but they have the opportunity to turn your brand into a great thing. But another skill that it would ask then from that side, I think, is great leadership, right? You can have the most talented person, but if that person is not under the right person, like you might never see like what they can do. So if money is not an issue, invest in the right people. Really make sure that you know who you're looking for. Try to also reach out to other people in the industry that are already doing this, so you don't make a mistake in terms of who you're hiring, and then get started. So you could do both. It just depends on like how much money you have in the bank, and also what your preference is. Like what direction do you want to go? Are you someone who's really young and just wants to learn still, like kind of like I am, where I feel like I know nothing? I know a lot of people around me that are doing 100 million a year. I'm not doing 100 million. I want to get to 100 million. So I need to learn from them. What are they doing that I'm not doing, that so I can get there as well? So then the learning direction is probably the best thing that you can do. But if you have other capital in the world, you could also just invest in the right people and they will make it happen for you. It just depends on you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is interesting. So let's just say that hypothetically, this person is an investor, right? Or they're looking to be a passive partner in the business. Like, I mean, I think this is important, right? Because I mean, we could talk about like, what if this person's intention is to get the right, but maybe they're a good recruiter because it's an entrepreneur. Like you said, you have to be really good at enrolling people into an vision, and then obviously setting up the right structures and leadership in order to drive results and build something. So let's just say that this person's intention is to build something, to sell it, and for, let's say, $2, $3, $4, $5 million, like nothing crazy, but they want to build it and sell it in, let's say, a year and a half or 2 years, 18 months to 24 months, right? So in terms of like startup capital I mean, you could just give us a range. I'm just very curious of like, okay, like what, like obviously you have the human capital, the opportunity cost, you have all this stuff, but I'm just curious to hear your take on what do you think in order to really do it right, to have a really good shot, if you could get the right people, what would be probably the budget for the first, let's say, to see if it's valuable, to see if it's a good business, you probably know in 90 days, I'm guessing, right? Like if it's going to sink or swim. So let's say 90 days of startup capital, what would you think with ad spend? Let's say if you have a media buyer and, a small team of 2 to 3 people to validate the business, like how much startup capital you think?
All right. So this is how I will look at it. It depends on the skill you have, right? But say you have nothing and you say, okay, I'm really invest in learning, but I'm not gonna like start from scratch. I have a little bit more money and I just want to invest in the right people to make that happen, to make sure that this product that I want to sell can be sold. There are a few people that you will need probably from the start. You will need a media buyer, someone who can advertise on the platforms you want to advertise on. You will probably need a creative strategist, which is like what I usually do for other brands, where I'm the strategy behind like what needs to happen, how does everything need to look, which ads need to be made, etc. That's the second thing. We need some type of copywriter that can create your landing page and the copy and probably even the part of the copy of your ads. You need an offer strategist, someone who can think about like what offers need to be on the website to be able to sell. And then probably a designer, maybe like to design everything so it looks good. Unless you are like really good at that by yourself, you will need someone else. And then the last person would probably be a developer. That doesn't have to be someone full-time. None of the positions I was talking about would have to be full-time in the beginning, but you want to have those people on your team if you want to accelerate your success. So I would say if you're looking for a good person, like that person, it depends on the position as well, right? An offer strategist, a really good one, will like to have a really normal average wage of maybe 5K per month. Same thing for the ad creative strategist. You could have different deals with them. It all depends on how you want to structure it. Like you could say, I'll give you a base wage of 5K, for example, and then the rest are bonuses. So you get bonuses depending on the performance and how good your offers work. So you would kind of have to figure out what you want to do. But good people are expensive. They will probably want to have 6-figure salaries. If they don't work full time, then you get the amount I was talking about, like maybe like around 5K a month or something. So say that you have at least 10 to 50K per terms of people, because like I said, designer maybe has to design once. It could be a freelancer. Same thing for the developer could also be once. And then the offer strategist, media buyer, and the creative strategist are probably people that you need all the time to make it work. So they are the most expensive people in your team. And then it would just be ad spend. Ad spend can start really low. Ad spend is always, it needs to represent like what you're selling. If you have a product that is $200, then your customer acquisition cost will be a bit higher because your product is a bit more expensive. So people are thinking, it takes them longer to consider buying your product. If you have a really cheap product that is maybe like $50, let's say $50, that's an easy sell. It's easier to sell that to people because it's lower. So your ad spend would be dependent on like what type of product you sell, and then how you like which direction you try to go. So I don't really have a fixed budget for that. I always like to say for ad spend, it's the more the higher. But at the same time, if your things are going well, you will get that money back eventually. So yeah, ideally, if you have like 10 to 50K, like 10 to 15K, you probably would be fine in terms of just getting the ball rolling, assuming that you hire the best people out there to get started, which is still not much for a business, I feel like. But you could also start with nothing. You could start with $500 and also get started. It just depends on like what you have. But if you have that, and it goes really well, you could probably, and you reach 1 million, like doing 100K is very doable. So by the end of the year, you could easily do like 1 million And depending on the value of your business and how it's structured, you could have maybe a 5x exit and you get to sell your business for 5 million. Like, why not? It's possible. I've seen people do it. So, yeah.
This is interesting. Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is for a 90-day window, it's like 45K, but I also see the value of what you're saying in terms of doing it yourself in the beginning, just to kind of understand, like identifying the right talented people and have the conversation and lead these people that you're spending 15K a month on. Because if you don't know shit, then like they probably wouldn't even work for you in general, right? I can't imagine like the best people working for someone who, unless they have an amazing vision or offer equity. I mean, there's probably lots of different, creative ideas. So this is fascinating. Sorry, I'm just talking out loud here because I'm curious, right? I'm asking questions as if, okay, well, how much money would I need? Okay, 45K, right? It sounds like. So, okay, let's go here. So you mentioned that like for these exits and everything like that. So like, I know, but before we wrap up, so like, I'm trying to understand. So like, what's your like goal? Because you're young, right? Like, what are you, like 24 or something like that? Like, I mean, you're a young gun. So like, what's your vision, right? Like what, like in 5 or 6 years, like what do you want this to turn into for yourself? Like, what are you striving for personally?
Yeah, well, for me, it's what it was in the beginning, like my own brand. It's just that along the way, I figured out that there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And it was mainly my environment. I feel like, so when I, met you a month ago, I said I'm kind of in that transition phase, right? Because I'm working with different people and I'm helping other brands and I love that. I want to keep doing that. I have an idea of that as well. So like within this 5 years, I would probably have exited my brand. By then, I would have built a brand and probably sold it. And then I would just focus on like making sure that other people can build their brand as well the right way. Building a sustainable brand because there's so much information out there in the internet, and you can only you can honestly find anything online, but yeah, it's the like doing it the right way. That's the issue, right? It like making sure you start with the information and the knowledge you need to make this a long-term deal that will probably be the biggest issue. Like that will probably be what fucks you over, to be really honest. So, and that's fine, right? That's a learning curve as well. Like I said, when I got started, I didn't know anything. And like even the mentors that I was paying for didn't give me the right information. So I would make sure that, and for me, it's more on the operational side. So like making sure that you're connected to the right payment processors, that you have the right partners mainly within your business to make sure that it's something scalable, because e-commerce is great. It's quite easy to get started. It's very accessible, right? It's not like you have to have, we gave for 45K as an example, but you don't need that. Like you could literally start with a few $100 today if that's what you wanted. It's very accessible, but that also makes it a very volatile business. And what you're trying to prevent, what will make your business successful is how can you handle the volatility and how bulletproof is your business like against that, because it's there. You're advertising on social media. So you need to really have that mindset of, okay, like how do we make this work? How do we make sure that we have the right partners to make sure that this doesn't go like south 100%. So yeah, that's another thing. So in 5 years, probably a brand that I've exited and then focusing on just helping other people.
Got it. Love it. More impact, more money, more impact. So how can people find you? Right? Like if they want to know more or follow your journey, what's the best way?
Well, I have a really complicated name. Like you could call me Eva, but it's like, everyone calls me Eva. Like no one says my full name. But if you type in my full name, you'll find me because I think I'm the only person who's called Eva in the world. So like type in my name, you'll find my Instagram, you'll find my website, you'll probably find me on Facebook, and like anywhere you contact me, I'm quite reachable. I'll get your message. So social media, website, yeah, best place to find me. For sure.
Boom. That stuff is going to be in the notes. This was fun. It was very interesting hearing your story and providing us some value. I thought that was awesome. So, guys, welcome to the end of the show. I thank you for giving me your most precious resource on the planet, which is your time. And we thank you for that. Hopefully you got a lot of value from this. If so, if you think this will resonate with someone, definitely send this over to them and let's share the love around the world because capitalism is awesome. So thanks again for coming and we'll see you in the next campfire. We're out.